Top 10 Prince Philip red flags Queen Elizabeth should have seen. Starting off with number 10, Unfit for the Queen. Despite the fact that the Queen and Prince Philip have been married for 71 years, many people were initially against the union between Philip and the young Princess Elizabeth. They first met in 1934 at Princess Marina of Denmark and Greece's wedding to Prince George, Duke of Kent. However, it wasn't until the young princess and her parents, King George and Queen Elizabeth, visited the Royal Naval College in 1939 that Philip, then 18 years old, won Elizabeth's heart. It is certainly not uncommon for royal marriages to be arranged. In fact, most royal unions are predetermined by other members of the family. That wasn't the case for Elizabeth and Philip. After the two met as teenagers, they began a correspondence and started spending time together when they could. Their friendship blossomed into a relationship of its own. And luckily for Philip, the king liked him. Biographer Sally Beadle Smith wrote that the king told his mother that Philip was intelligent, has a good sense of humor, and thinks about things in the right way. They kept in contact through letters, and Naval Captain Philip frequently paid a visit to Windsor Castle when he could. However, the fact that he had a background in the Navy and held a position of power raised suspicions among many establishment members. When the Greek prince married Elizabeth, he was considered a dangerous lefty. Philip is often mentioned as having been an outsider when he married Elizabeth in 1947. While he wasn't a member of the traditional British aristocracy or nobility, he was certainly familiar with the ways of the royals, having been born into a royal family. What's more, he and Elizabeth were distant cousins and great-great-grandchildren of Queen Victoria. Number 9, entitled. The prince's stench of class privilege stood out most of all. In media outlets, sycophants for the royal family attempted to portray Philip as a straightforward man of the people. But Philip detested the commoners. He reportedly stated to the vicious Paraguayan dictator General Stroessner in 1963, "It's a pleasure to be in a country that isn't ruled by its people." Philip made the following statement in 1980 when unemployment in Thatcher's Britain reached 3 million. A few years ago, everyone was saying that we needed more time off because we were all working too much. Everyone is complaining that they are unemployed, now that they have more free time. It doesn't appear that people can decide what they want. In 2015, while taking a tour of a London community center, Philip posed the following question to a group of Asian volunteers. Who do you sponge off then? Philip would never be described as someone who works hard. In May 2017, when he announced his retirement from public life, the British media reported that over the course of 6 decades, he had engaged in 22,219 engagements. However, the majority of those engagements lasted on average an hour and included everything from launching battleships and presenting plaques at town halls to drinking and eating banquets with other reactionary thugs. On to number 8, affairs. The Crown strongly hints that Philip was a serial cheater. Over the years, the prince has been linked to numerous women, including 2 dancers, but neither nor the women have ever confirmed. One of the most gripping moments in the show's 2nd season is when Philip's personal secretary and close friend Mike Parker is accused of adultery and sued for divorce in '58. A massive scandal ensues on the show and in real life, with the implication that Philip must be a cheater too. That episode shows Elizabeth making peace with her husband by making him a prince. However, news reports from back then suggested Philip was made a prince so he couldn't be forced to testify at Parker's divorce trial, potentially exposing him to uncomfortable and embarrassing questions. Having said that, a long list of women have been mentioned as possible mistresses of the late prince. The affair between King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla is typically the first thing that comes to mind when people think of misbehavior within the royal family. The world was shocked by Prince Charles and Princess Diana's liaison, and it took many years before the public was ready to accept Camilla as an official royal family member. However, Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth's husband, was also the subject of rumors of extramarital affairs. However, Philip himself offered a sarcastic response to the claim, stating in 2017, "Have you ever stopped to consider the fact that I have never moved anywhere without a police officer accompanying me over the past 40 years? So how on earth did I manage to get away with something like that?" Although the majority dismissed these rumors as merely gossip from the tabloids, there have been some truly scandalous claims over the years. In 1948, the couple gave birth to their first child, Prince Charles. 1948 was also the year that Prince Philip is rumored to have had an affair with Pat Kirkwood. After that, while Elizabeth was at home, 8 months pregnant with Charles, Philip and Pat dined together in public in London before dancing until dawn at a nightclub. They allegedly met 6 more times and wrote to each other via letter. These letters will not be made public until an official biographer for the late Duke of Edinburgh is chosen after he passed away. Her career was ruined by rumors that Pat was the prince's mistress. Pat was left on her own to defend herself because, in accordance with protocol, the royal palace refused to issue a statement in response to the rumors. In 1950, the Queen and Prince Philip's second child was born, Princess Anne. In 1956, Prince Philip embarked on a world tour aboard the Britannia, a royal yacht, leaving the Queen and 2 young children behind in England. On to number 7, racism. The Duke, who wed the Queen in 1947, retired from public life in May 2017 at the age of 95. But his remarks that were racist, sexist, or degrading had been dismissed as gaffes from more than 40 years prior. When Philip went to China in 1986, he called Beijing ghastly. Additionally, he told British students, "You'll all have slitty eyes if you stay here for a long time." Philip made an offensive observation about Cantonese cuisine in the same year while giving a speech at a meeting of the World Wildlife Fund. He stated, "The Cantonese will eat it if it has 4 legs and is not a chair, if it has wings and is not an airplane, or if it swims and is not a submarine." He stated the following to a student who was traveling through Papua New Guinea in 1988. "So how did you avoid being eaten?" In 1994, he inquired of residents of the Cayman Islands as to whether the majority of them were descended from pirates, and in 2002, he posed the following question to an Aboriginal leader in Queensland. "Do you still strike each other with spears?" The unhinged prince just never realized that sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut. But that is also most likely because he knew he could get away with literally anything he would want to say. Number 6, the prince's duties. He spent 350 hours per year, or less than 7 hours per week, over 64 years, dedicating his time to public service. Philip received a yearly stipend of £360,000 for his efforts. Given that everything he did, from traveling to top restaurants to international travel, was paid for by someone else, this was essentially pocket money. The thinking and attitudes that dominated the British ruling class during Philip's childhood were only reflected in his racism, sexism, and hatred on the lower orders. They were born into fascism, and his gaffes provide some insight into their social environment. On to number 5, public disapproval. Prince Philip's unlikability and overbearing demeanor only grew stronger during his 69 years as royal consort, which he did at great public expense to lead a life of waste and self-indulgence. In British high society, which includes the royal enclosure at Ascot races, the royal box at Wimbledon, debutante coming-out parties, country hunts, London clubs, the Oxford and Cambridge boat race, the Henley Royal Regatta, charity balls, and numerous polo matches, statements that were viewed as outrageous by many were the norm. The rest of us are just the unwashed masses to this man. Despite Prince Philip's uncanny ability to offend, he was never removed from public life or confined to a Buckingham Palace wing where he would never be seen again, which speaks volumes about the arrogance of the British monarchy. Philip also notoriously lost patience while carrying out royal responsibilities, telling a photographer in 2015 during a photo session to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Britain to just take the effing picture. On to number 4, ignorant. He was regarded as a countryman and a servant by his followers, and represented white male privilege to others. He once told a boy who was 13 that he was too fat to be an astronaut. He stated British women are incapable of cooking. When he went to China in 1986, he told a British student, "You will return home with slitty eyes if you stay much longer here." He declared when he met Nigeria's president, who was dressed in traditional garb, "You appear to be ready for bed. How many people have you knocked over on that thing this morning?" He once asked a man on a mobility scooter who was physically impaired. On to number 3, advised not to marry Philip. Biographer Anne Wilson has claimed that the young Elizabeth was told on a number of occasions that Philip was entirely the wrong person to choose because he was too funny and made gaffes, according to the Telegraph. Speaking at the Cheltenham Literary Festival in 2016, he said, when she made it quite clear from the age of about 14 that she was in love with Prince Philip, who was a German prince with blonde hair, all the courtiers said he was entirely the wrong person to choose. He continued, they said it for lots of reasons, but the fact is he was wrong. The Queen is a very reserved, diligent person. He isn't. He was a naval officer who was also apparently quite funny. The biographer told his audience that Philip's first comment to the Queen after her coronation was, "Where did you get that hat?" Number 2, tolerating each other. When Philip and Elizabeth married in 1947, neither of them expected she would be crowned queen anytime soon. Her father, King George VI, was in his early 50s. Philip, named Duke of Edinburgh, intended to continue his career in the Navy, but the king passed away 5 years into their marriage, and Elizabeth became queen at the early age of 25. Philip was forced to quit his naval career. The Crown portrays his resentment. In 1992, he told an interviewer, "I'd much rather have stayed in the Navy, frankly." He later called his resignation naturally disappointing. By many accounts, there was real tension in the marriage. For their 50th wedding anniversary, Philip gave a rare speech about his marriage. He said that what has made their relationship work is the fact that they're tolerant of each other. I think the main lesson that we have learned is that tolerance is the one essential ingredient of a happy marriage. It may not be quite so important when things are going well, but it is absolutely vital when the going gets difficult. You can take it from me that the Queen has the quality of tolerance in abundance. And on to number 1, struggling to fit in. Irving pointed to Philip's 1956 tour of Commonwealth countries as evidence of his need for breathing room. He explained, it is understandable that as a hot-blooded young buck, as soon as he entered into the orbit of the horrible royal court and all the flunkies telling him what to do, it did not suit him. The fact that he lost his stack and spent 6 months on the boat is not surprising. He wanted to escape the dreadful atmosphere of the court where he felt constrained. But Philip was able to make the job his own over time. He founded awards for design and industry, established an interfaith dialogue, and served as the first president of the World Wildlife Fund, UK, in addition to accompanying the Queen on her travels abroad and supporting hundreds of organizations. He later stated that supporting his wife in her role as monarch was his primary responsibility. Philip was eager to embrace television when he joined the British royal family at the same time that it was growing in popularity. He was the first member of the royal family to give an interview on television in 1961, promoting the advantages of technical skills and training. It is said that he was involved in the decision to broadcast the Queen's coronation on TV in 1953. That is all for today. Let me know your thoughts on the Prince's very problematic past in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more juicy royal updates, and I'll catch you next time on The Rich Life.